Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a topic that's, well, it's everywhere, defining our future. Artificial intelligence. We're going to navigate the fascinating, sometimes maybe daunting world of AI. And we're doing it through a really unique lens thanks to a remarkable book.
That's right. Our main source for this deep dive is AI 2041, 10 Visions for Our Future. It's by Kai-Fu Lee and Chen Qiufan, and it's not quite your typical prediction book. They call it scientific fiction.
Scientific fiction.
Yeah, it cleverly blends these imaginative stories set about 2 decades out with some really insightful analytical essays. The whole approach, as they explain it, is really about cutting through the noise, common misconceptions about AI.
Absolutely. So our mission today is basically to pull out the most important insights, those sort of nuggets of knowledge from these visions. We'll explore how AI seems poised to transform, well, pretty much every aspect of our lives. Your job, relationships, your health, even how we chase happiness. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding the opportunities, the challenges, and importantly, what it all might mean for you. Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Our sources really highlight that, well, AI, especially deep learning, feels like this sudden recent explosion. The foundational ideas, they've actually been around for, well, decades.
Right. It's not like the core concepts are brand new. The real game changer wasn't some sudden breakthrough in theory. It was the scale.
Scale.
The sheer scale of computing power and data finally catching up. I mean, the book mentions 1 trillion times more computing power for AI experiments.
1 trillion times.
And data storage. 15 million times cheaper than 40 years ago. That combination is what really lit the fuse.
And that led to moments like the AlphaGo moment.
Yeah.
Right? Back in 2016.
Yeah. Exactly. That was huge. Deep learning powering an AI to beat the human world champion in Go. Go is, incredibly complex, a massive intellectual game in Asia. Seeing AI conquer, that really supercharged the excitement.
But what's interesting and maybe a little concerning is how public perception often doesn't quite match that reality.
That's a key point the book makes. Many people get their ideas about AI from, well, let's be honest, often inaccurate or exaggerated sources.
Like science fiction.
Yeah, science fiction often gives us these images of robots wanting to control us or outsmart humanity in some, dramatic showdown.
Or the news focuses on the negative stuff.
Right, sensationalizing those negative outlying examples like an autonomous vehicle accident or AI influencing elections or deepfakes spreading misinformation. It craps headlines.
And then you have the thought leaders.
Yeah. Often experts in maybe related fields, but not AI specifically, their predictions might lack scientific rigor and get quoted out of context.
So all that adds up to a generally more cautious, maybe even negative view of AI than perhaps is warranted.
That's the argument. And it's exactly what AI 2041 tries to address.
By offering a more grounded view.
Grounded, yes, but still imaginative. They deliberately partnered with Chen Qiufan, who's an award-winning science fiction writer. The idea was to tell stories about AI that are really engaging, widely appealing, by embedding technologies that are actually feasible within a 20-year period.
Hence the title, AI 2041. Placing it just 2 decades out makes it feel more immediate.
Exactly. And the digits 41 kind of look like AI, which is a neat coincidence. They're very specific about calling it scientific fiction, not just science fiction.
Which raises that interesting question you touched on. Can sci-fi, or scientific fiction in this case, do more than just entertain or warn us?
The authors definitely think so. They argue it has this unique ability to bridge gaps.
Gaps how?
Like transcend time and space limits, connect technology with the humanities, blur fiction and reality, and maybe most importantly, spark empathy and deep thinking in the reader.
So by imagining the future.
By imagining it, they argue, we can even step in, make change, and actively play a role in shaping our reality. It's a call for proactive engagement, not just sitting back and watching.
That's a really powerful frame. Okay, let's dive into some of those specifics then. Real world, or maybe soon to be real world applications. How about AI in our personal lives? The book has a story called The Golden Elephant.
Right, and at the heart of this is deep learning's power to customize for individual users. It does this by analyzing your patterns, your behavior, and comparing it to millions of others like you.
We see this already, don't we? Amazon showing you products it thinks you'll buy, or Facebook curating your feed to keep you scrolling.
Exactly. And in the story, this fictional insurance app Ganesh Insurance, or GI, takes it further. It taps into India's real national ID system, the Aadhaar card system, which, as the book notes, has collected just vast amounts of personal data.
Like what kind of data?
Everything. Fingerprints, retina scans, genetic histories, jobs, credit scores, tax records. A huge trove.
Right.
And with user consent, in the story, GI uses this data to completely personalize its services, reduce premiums. It learns from millions of pieces of information.
Okay, that sounds efficient, maybe even beneficial in some ways, but...
But here's where it gets, as you say, interesting and potentially unsettling. The book really digs into this major downside, AI potentially knowing you better than you know yourself.
Which sounds like a sci-fi trope, but you're saying it has real implications.
Definitely. On the one hand, tailored recommendations, helpful nudges. On the other, well, we've all fallen down that YouTube rabbit hole, right? Intending to watch one video and emerging 3 hours later.
Okay.
But it can be more serious. The source mentions AI being able to infer things like sexual orientation from facial microexpressions with high accuracy.
How evasive.
Extremely. Or in the Golden Elephant story, the AI doesn't directly see someone's caste, their Dalit status, but it infers it by correlating all the other data points and features.
Leading to discrimination.
Exactly. Discrimination and even attempts to keep certain people apart, all based on algorithmic inference.
And this ties into the explainability problem. The AI's black box.
Precisely. This is a huge ethical hurdle. A human can usually give you reasons for a decision, even if they're flawed reasons. But deep learning, its decisions come from these incredibly complex equations with thousands of features and millions of parameters.
Too complex for us to really grasp.
Too complex to explain fully to a human, as the book puts it. And the consequences are obviously extremely serious if you start applying these unexplainable algorithms to things like hospital admissions or criminal justice proceedings.
Yeah, that's genuinely chilling. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. From these very personal ethical quandaries, let's look at how AI might reshape a big societal institution, education. The story Twin Sparrows tackles this.
Right. And the starting observation is pretty stark. Despite technology changing almost every other industry, a classroom today still resembles a classroom 100 years ago. Think about that.
It's true. Still largely one teacher, many students, same basic model.
Often one size fits all, very expensive, hard to scale effectively.
So how could AI change that, according to the book?
Well, it could automate a lot of the routine tasks teachers do. Correcting simple errors, answering frequently asked questions, assigning and grading homework.
Freeing them up for more complex teaching.
Potentially, yes. The book even imagines AI bringing historical characters back to life to interact with students. Imagine debating philosophy with an AI Socrates.
That would be something. But the biggest potential.
The greatest opportunity, they argue, is individualized learning through personalized AI tutors.
Like the VPELs in the story, Adaman and Solaris.
Exactly. These virtual pals, maybe a cartoon character or some abstract shape, are always available. They adapt to your learning style, your pace. They can make learning more fun, potentially, and become this constantly evolving repository of data about how you learn best.
Which naturally leads to the question, how does AI actually understand language to do this? This gets us into natural language processing, NLP.
Right. A key area. Supervised deep learning for NLP often involves training the AI on massive labeled data sets. Think of the UN's archives, multilingual translations for identical content. Feeding that to an AI teaches it patterns.
Allowing it to get good at specific tasks.
Very good. Often outperforming most humans in things like speech recognition, think dictation software, or optical character recognition, reading text from images.
But understanding is harder than just recognizing words, isn't it?
Much harder. Moving from recognition to understanding, where the AI grasps intent, like telling Alexa or Siri playback, and it knows you want music.
Why is that so challenging?
Because of the myriad ways humans might express a similar intent. We don't all say playback the exact same way. There's nuance, context.
So what are the breakthroughs there? The book mentions GPT-3.
Yes, GPT-3 was a huge leap, a gigantic model with 175 billion parameters, just massive. And it can do a whole range of language tasks reasonably well, writing poetry, drafting press releases, even mimicking different writing styles.
How does it learn all that?
It uses something called transfer learning. It's pre-trained on a colossal amount of general text data from the internet, absorbing grammar, facts, reasoning patterns. Then it can be quickly tuned to a certain domain, like medical or legal text, with only a small amount of specific data for that field.
But it's not perfect.
Oh, far from it. GPT-3 makes many basic mistakes, lacks real common sense sometimes, but the rate of progress is staggering. NLP model parameters have been doubling 10 times every year if that continues. Future versions could become incredibly powerful, all-knowing sequence transducers.
But that's still not artificial general intelligence, AGI, like human-level thinking.
No, the book is quite clear on that. AGI matching human creativity, strategic thought, consciousness is seen as highly unlikely by 2041. That would require, they estimate, maybe a dozen more breakthroughs like deep learning. We're not there yet. Not even close, really.
Okay, so we've covered personal data, education, language. Let's continue our deep dive into another huge area, healthcare. The story, Contactless Love, paints a picture here, and it feels especially relevant after, recent global events.
Absolutely. The pandemic definitely expedited the use of robotics in healthcare for things like sanitation or delivery, reducing human contact. And maybe more importantly, it accelerated the digitization of the healthcare industry. More records online, more data generated.
Which is crucial for AI, right? It needs data.
Massive amounts. And that's why the authors predict healthcare will likely be the industry most transformed by AI by 2041. The data foundation is being laid now.
How will AI transform it beyond robotics?
Well, think drug and vaccine discovery. AI can help understand complex biological structures, like how virus proteins fold into unique 3D shapes.
Which helps design new drugs.
Exactly. Or perhaps even faster, AI can help repurpose existing drugs. It can screen libraries of known drugs to see if their shapes might fit a new virus or disease target. That's a potential quick fix during pandemics, potentially avoiding years of new clinical trials.
What about diagnostics? Will AI replace doctors' reading scans?
The prediction is that diagnostic AI will exceed all but the best doctors in the next 20 years, especially in visual fields like radiology and pathology. Computer vision algorithms are already, in some specific cases, more accurate than human radiologists at spotting certain things on scans.
So that is the doctors.
The vision isn't necessarily replacement, but transformation. If AI gets so good that doctors are routinely rubber-stamping AI diagnoses, their role might shift more towards becoming compassionate caregivers and medical communicators, focusing on the human element, explaining things, providing comfort.
But haven't there been big AI failures in healthcare, like IBM Watson for cancer?
Yes, and the book draws a key lesson from that. Watson's failure wasn't necessarily the AI itself, but the data. It was trained primarily on high-quality instructional data designed for teaching medical students, but that data set was actually too small for AI.
So AI needs messy, massive, real-world data, not just curated textbook examples.
Exactly. It needs the sheer volume to find patterns humans might miss. That was a critical lesson.
This leads us to another huge implication: jobs. If AI can diagnose diseases, what else can it do? The job savior story tackles this head-on, looking at AI job displacement.
And it's a profound challenge. The core issue is AI's ability to perform certain tasks at essentially zero cost once developed. This is predicted to cause unprecedented job displacement, and not just blue-collar work.
Like warehouse workers or construction?
Yes, warehouse pickers, maybe even plumbers for new, standardized buildings, but also white-collar roles.
Such as?
Bookkeepers, insurance underwriters, anyone doing routine data processing or analysis. There's this thing called robotic process automation, RPA, basically software robots.
Cockroach robot.
Yeah. They watch human workers perform routine, repetitive tasks on a computer, learn the patterns, and then eventually take over.
Gradually.
It's often gradual, but potentially total displacement for those specific tasks.
So what's the solution in the story? Universal Basic Income, UBI.
Well, the story explores UBI. Initially popular, but it led to unintended consequences.
Like what?
Increased rates of depression, suicide, substance abuse, widening inequality, and social unrest.
Why? If people's basic needs are met.
Because, the story suggests, people lost more than just income. They lost the sense of achievement they gained from substantive work. Purpose, structure, social connection.
That's a sobering thought. So if UBI isn't the whole answer, what does the book propose?
It suggests the 3 R's: relearn, recalibrate, and renaissance.
Okay, break those down.
Relearn is about acquiring new skills, ones resistant to AI automation, focusing on creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence. Recalibrate is about adjusting our expectations and values around work. Maybe success isn't just about climbing the corporate ladder anymore. And renaissance, that's about fostering human creativity and social connections, finding value in art, community, relationships, things AI can't easily replicate.
How does that translate practically? The story mentions blurring job lines.
Yeah, using technologies like VR for practical training in roles that might blend made-up jobs designed for skill acquisition with real jobs. The focus shifts from immediate economic output to continuous learning and human development.
Interesting. So what if we pushed that idea even further? Beyond just managing job displacement, what if society reached a point of true abundance? Dreaming of plenitude explores this future of post-scarcity.
Right, a world where basic goods are nearly free and work becomes truly optional. It sounds utopian, but the book argues the technological drivers are visible now.
Like energy costs.
Exactly. Solar and wind are already the cheapest sources of electricity in many places. Battery storage costs are plummeting. This could lead to superpower, but basically excess energy at essentially zero cost for applications that aren't time sensitive.
And materials, too.
Yes, a materials revolution. Synthetic biology creating lab-grown meat, new food sources, material science building things one atom at a time. The story even imagines AI designing houses from prefabricated modules assembled by robots, drastically cutting housing costs.
If energy, materials, food, housing become incredibly cheap, what happens to the economy?
Well, traditional economics is built on the fundamental premise of scarcity. If scarcity diminishes for basic needs,
Money and work change their meaning.
fundamentally, the story uses Project Decrypta in Australia as a model for how this might work.
What are the components of that project?
Three main parts. First, a basic life card, or BLC. This guarantees universal basic services, food, water, shelter, healthcare, fulfilling Maslow's base needs, plus free education and retraining.
So not just cash, but guaranteed access.
Right. Second, there's moolah. It's a non-monetary currency.
Non-monetary, how does that work?
You earn moolah by doing voluntary community work, helping others, fostering human connection. It rewards contributions to social well-being, fulfilling needs for love and belonging.
And the third part?
The Dream for Future movement. This advocates for everyone having equal opportunities to explore who they want to become, pursuing passions, creativity, learning self-actualization.
It sounds idyllic. Are there potential downsides?
One major challenge highlighted is the risk of corporations creating artificial scarcity.
How so?
Even if goods can be produced cheaply, companies might artificially limit supply or create premium versions to maintain profits and status symbols. We've seen it historically with things like diamonds or luxury fashion. The impulse to maintain hierarchy might persist even in abundance.
Okay, let's shift our focus again, from the societal and economic to the physical spaces we inhabit. How does AI shape public areas? The Holy Driver looks at autonomous vehicles, AVs.
Right. And achieving full level 5 autonomy where the car handles everything everywhere is really hard. The cost of a mistake is just too high.
So how do we get there safely?
The book suggests augmented roads and cities. Imagine roads embedded with sensors and wireless communication, constantly feeding information to the AVs.
Smart roads helping smart cars.
Exactly. This could significantly accelerate safe L5 deployment, and the potential safety benefit is enormous. AVs can learn collectively, gaining potentially 1 trillion hours of experience from every car on the network. Compare that to human drivers, who cause about 1.35 million fatalities globally each year.
The safety argument is compelling.
And imagine the coordination. Cars communicating instantly, accurately, and effortlessly. Creating an empty lane for an ambulance in seconds, rerouting all traffic smoothly for a marathon.
What's the long-term implication for us, the human drivers?
Well, the prediction is pretty stark. Human driving might eventually become unsafe or illegal on public roads.
Like driving drunk today, something only done in controlled environments.
Possibly. Enthusiasts might retreat to private areas designated for entertainment or sports, like track days.
And the economic disruption.
Massive. Think taxi, truck, bus, and delivery drivers. But also car repair shops, gas stations, dealerships. It could be a shift as big as the transition from horse-drawn carriages to automobiles.
But back to that safety point. If an AV does cause an accident, a fatality, can the AI explain why it made the decision it did? Legally, morally.
That's the crux of the explainable AI problem again, isn't it? The AI's answer is ultimately just a complex math equation derived from its training data. It lacks human common sense, so its reasoning, even if technically correct based on the data, might seem downright stupid to people. How do you assign blame or find justice in that?
A very difficult question. Okay, let's turn to maybe the darker side of AI that gets a lot of headlines. Deception. Gods Behind the Masks explores deepfakes.
Right. Deepfakes are typically built using generative adversarial networks, GANs.
Can you explain GANs simply?
Think of it as two AIs competing. One is the forger network, trying its best to create fake images or videos that look real. The other is the detective network, trying to spot the fakes.
So they constantly push each other to get better.
Exactly. It's an eternal battle, an arms race. The forger learns how to fool the current detective, then the detective gets updated, and so on. Computing power is critical here.
And by 2041, the story suggests.
Deep Mask, the successor to Deepfakes, achieves image quality and synchronization that can completely fool the human eye.
Scary. Could we detect them?
Anti-fake detectors will become standard, the book suggests, but running high-quality, real-time detection everywhere is computationally expensive, making it difficult.
And the uses, obviously malicious ones.
Oh yes, spreading rumors, blackmail, harassment, defamation, election manipulation. The potential for malice is huge.
But are there any constructive uses?
Surprisingly, yes. The book mentions things like realistically aging or de-aging photos, colorizing old black and white films, even potentially helping with drug discovery by modeling molecular interactions visually. The tech itself is neutral.
Which brings us to perhaps the most terrifying potential application. Autonomous weapons. Quantum genocide introduces this, along with quantum computing.
Yeah, QC is another rapidly advancing field. The number of qubits, the basic units of quantum computation, is increasing significantly. Optimists, the book notes, project we might have a functional 4,000 logical qubit quantum computer by 2041.
What could that kind of power do?
Well, one major thing is cracking current encryption standards, including the kind used for many cryptocurrencies. The book specifically mentions the 2 million bitcoins stored in the old vulnerable format, potentially including the legendary Satoshi's treasure. A quantum computer could theoretically break that encryption.
Wow. But the story links QC to autonomous weapons.
The connection isn't direct technology, but the futuristic context. The prospect of autonomous weapons drones or robots that can select and engage targets without human intervention is described as morally repugnant.
Why are they considered so much more dangerous than, say, current drones?
They fundamentally lower the cost to the killer. No soldier in harm's way. They can be programmed to target individuals by using facial or gait recognition or track phone signals. This enables not just assassination, but potentially a genocide of any group of people identifiable by some data marker.
Is there any way to prevent this? Like nuclear deterrence?
That's the problem. Unlike nukes, where mutually assured destruction creates a terrifying kind of stability, autonomous weapons might lack that. Why? Because the surprise first attack may be untraceable. Who launched the swarm of tiny killer drones? It's hard to know who to retaliate against.
The deterrence doesn't work. What are the solutions proposed?
An outright ban. Thousands of AI experts, figures like Elon Musk, the late Stephen Hawking, have called for one. But major military powers, US, Russia, UK, are mentioned, have opposed a ban, arguing it's too early, that the tech isn't mature yet. The arms race continues.
And the story's antagonist, Mark Rousseau. What's his motivation for using these doomsday drones?
He's portrayed as a radical environmentalist. He orchestrates attacks on global oil infrastructure using autonomous drones. His stated goal is extreme, to give Earth back to its original inhabitants, basically, to force civilization back to its pre-digital state by collapsing the fossil fuel economy, stopping pollution. He sees humanity as accelerationist driving off a cliff.
And AI can't even understand that level of human motivation.
Even the sophisticated AI interrogation systems in the story struggle to fully grasp the depths of human hatred, ideology, or motivations like Rousseau's. There are limits to its understanding of us.
Okay, we've covered some heavy, even frightening territory. Let's bring it back to the personal for our final section. How do humans interact with and maybe even define themselves through AI and these immersive future technologies? My Haunting Idol explores this using extended reality, XR.
Right. XR is the umbrella term for virtual reality, VR, augmented reality, AR, mixed reality, MMR. Its key feature is creating this intense feeling of presence. It feels like a parallel reality, the book says, or like dreaming with your eyes open.
What does that future look like in this story? No more smartphones.
Pretty much. Invisible smart streams replace them. Visual displays on smart glasses or contact lenses. Audio through tiny invisible ear sets. You interact via hand gestures or maybe even just typing in air.
And a touch. Can you feel this virtual world?
Yes, through haptic gloves or even full somatosensory suits that can simulate wind and an embrace, as well as warmth, cold, vibration, and pain.
Making virtual experiences incredibly immersive. Games, training simulations.
Exactly. But the story also makes a subtle point about AI's limits and creativity.
How so?
The protagonist reads AI-generated literature tailored perfectly to her tastes. It's flawless in its construction, deliberately appealing. But it lacks something. It lacks the challenges and surprises, the imperfections and unexpected turns that make human-written stories maybe far less exciting on the surface, but ultimately more engaging or meaningful.
Interesting. So how do these immersive texts and AI change our sense of self, our identity?
Well, the virtual idol system in My Haunting Idol raises questions about authenticity. These idols have prepackaged stage personas customized for fans based on user research. What does that mean for the relationship between the idol and the fan? Is it real connection?
And what about managing all the data that fuels this personalization?
This brings us to the analysis for another story, Isle of Happiness. It introduces a fascinating concept, the trusted AI, called the Isle.
A trusted AI, what does it do?
Imagine an AI that acts as your agent. It unifies all your personal data from various apps and services, turning fragmented data swamps into your own powerful data ocean. Crucially, you control it. It acts as your data protector and your interface to the digital world.
How does it protect data?
It decides whether to share your data with apps based on your explicitly stated values and preferences. No more clicking endless consent pop-ups. The AI handles it.
That sounds amazing, actually, like a new social contract for data, as the book calls it.
Exactly. And the technology to enable this is developing. Fields like privacy computing, things like federated learning, where AI models are trained across many devices without the raw data ever leaving your device or being centralized.
So the AI learns without seeing your private info.
Essentially, yes. Or homomorphic encryption, which is even more advanced. It allows computations to be performed on data while it's still encrypted.
Meaning even the owner of the AI system couldn't necessarily peek at your raw data.
That's the goal. Building trust through verifiable privacy protection.
So after this whole journey through AI 2041's visions, the good, the bad, the transformative, what's the final takeaway?
The authors argue, quite powerfully, I think, that successfully navigating this age of AI ultimately comes down to us, to embracing our fundamental human qualities.
It's not just about the tech itself.
No, they believe that if we get the dance between artificial intelligence and human society right, it would unquestionably be the single greatest achievement in human history. High stakes.
But they acknowledge the dangers, the biases, deepfakes, autonomous weapons.
Absolutely. They see myriad challenges and perils. But crucially, they argue these are not inflicted by AI, but by humans who use AI maliciously or carelessly. The fault lies with us, the users and creators.
And the stories show ways through.
Yes. The problems presented in the stories are consistently overcome, not by some magic AI fix, but by human creativity, resourcefulness, tenacity, wisdom, courage, compassion, and love.
Yeah.
Our innate strengths.
So we've journeyed through this really remarkable landscape of AI's potential future. We've seen personalized companions that teach us, radical shifts in healthcare and how we work, and also those unsettling possibilities, autonomous weapons, digital deception.
And what's really striking, I think, is that recurring theme. The true strength and the ultimate responsibility, it doesn't lie just in the code or the algorithms. It lies in human agency. It's all about how we choose to adapt, how we innovate, how we apply those uniquely human qualities you just mentioned.
Our deep dive into AI 2041 really paints this compelling picture, doesn't it? AI could liberate us from drudgery, offer comfort, security, maybe pushing us, as the book suggests, to pursue deeper needs like love and self-actualization.
It really encourages us to use our free will, to embrace what they call human-AI symbiosis.
Yeah.
Using this powerful tool not just to solve problems, but as a way to boldly go where no one has gone before. Exploring new worlds, yes, but maybe more importantly, exploring ourselves.
Ultimately, you're right. This look into the future of AI, it isn't just about the technology. It really does feel like a mirror, reflecting our own human story, our values, our flaws, and, our incredible potential. So the question for you, listening, is, as AI continues to reshape your world, what new possibilities will you choose to explore within yourself?